Hey everybody, welcome into the Beehive. I'm your host, the Bee at LLC, and this is where we stack precious metals like it's pollen and nectar. Our pollen is silver, and our nectar is gold, preserving our wealth as honey of old. And like ancient metals, we hold our own. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the idea of a free market. And is capitalism good or bad? And I hear these arguments bantered back and forth about, and I think we're missing a big key element within the argument. Because if you have a capitalistic system or a free market system, but yet someone has access to a magic money hat or a money printer, then you have neither a free market nor capitalism. So I don't think we live in a free market, even though some people think that that's what we are based on. I don't believe we are, not with a money printer involved. And capitalism is not capitalism with a money printer involved. It is a corrupt crony capitalism. And to discuss this today, I got Space Miner with me. Let me bring him up here. Space Miner.
What up, y'all?
Welcome in. How you doing today?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing good. Ready to break some of this in with you, man. You picked a good one.
Yeah, we had a little discussion on this earlier, and I thought, let's take this out and get some of the conversation live and documented. Like I was saying, a big problem that I hear and amongst big minds in the monetary realm, I hear discussions on, is capitalism a good thing to have as far as a structure system? Is free market itself a good system? But this is often gets argued back and forth, and it's kind of a null and void argument if there's a money printer involved in that system. It makes the free market not a free market. It makes capitalism crony capitalism. So I don't think the argument should be is free market good or is capitalism good without understanding that a free market, to be a free market, would have to be with no money printer involved. Then you can have a free market. And same with capitalism. Capitalism might work, but not if there is crony capitalism. Somebody has a magic money hat and can print themselves wealth, strength, and power just by having access to that magic money hat, therefore rendering capitalism crony capitalism. So, yeah, I brought Space Miner up here to get in on this, and yeah, I feel like, I was talking with him earlier. I'm out of Denver, Colorado, and when I moved down here, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, before I was an old man, there wasn't much homelessness. There was some in it, but it was more contained to where you didn't see it constantly. Now, I live on the outskirts of town, and I can't move around here, go to the local grocer without seeing homelessness on each corner here, let alone when I drive downtown. Denver is just on every sidewalk and everywhere. So something is happening that's causing this explosion of homelessness here in Denver, Colorado. So that led me to this conversation on the free market and capitalism and what we talk about. Of course, the reason this channel got started was stacking gold and silver for monetary preservation so that this system can't eat away at your family's savings without you realizing what's happening. But then once you get into these gold and silver and the monetary system, you start hearing these arguments about, well, should we have capitalism? Should we have free markets? And all of that should we can have these conversations, but we need to understand that right now the big hole in our society, to me, the biggest problem that's causing the most problems here in America and probably worldwide is the fact that we went off the gold standard and went on to a money printing availability to our government, and supposed to be the standard of the world that was based on gold, which is more of a free market. But now that we've closed the gold window, it's put the whole world on this fiat system. So that, I believe that's our huge problem that needs to be pinpointed. And I think that's where the in the Fed hash, the in the Fed statement comes in, which I agree with. But again, before we start discussing free markets and capitalism, we need to understand that you can't have either whilst there's a money printer involved. What say you, Space Miner?
Give me a lot to shoot at.
Sorry.
No, I'm going to kind of defer to one of the driving anecdotes that we had earlier. Was we kind of go back, to that caveman. So I'm a caveman. I understand things in a very reductionary and simplistic way, right? And so, like you had mentioned, you got the runner guy who's really good at running down the buffalo, but he's got no time to set up his tent.
Yeah,
And
let's set that stage a bit more.
but
That was such a good point. Go ahead.
all right, but let me drive a second point in this that I was just thinking about as you were speaking, was that you think about what a free market really is and what it means, and when you kind of like reduce it to the most simplistic of terms, it really does kind of fall back to that caveman, right? And so when we're talking about a market at all, it's always been the free market. The free market is the only market. And anything outside of that is not really a market, but a tokenized exchange, is what I was kind of like coming to terms with. Was like, because think about it, if it's that, what does that literally mean? A free market. Anytime you put legislation, rules, procedures, institutes, laws behind it, it is no longer free.
Yes.
You might be within liberty, but you're not within freedom anymore. And so therefore, free market is no longer the word. You might call it a liberty market, but it's not a market anymore, because a market is dependent on that free exchange of goods.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so the anecdote to the caveman running, I think it's really a base building foundation of like, how did we even get to this point in the first place? Well,
Yeah.
you got to know where we started. So
Yeah. Well, so I want to build on that base. So earlier when we were talking, one of the questions that arises when discussing this is, can we do this without money? And though we might have to do a live stream on that subject alone, I'm just gonna to give a quick answer to, can we do that without money? Yes, but let's break that down a bit. If we go back to here in America before the white man kind of took over the area, you had the Indians here, and they didn't use the money in the sense that we use the money. So let's just, as an example, we'll say one of these people was named Mr. Lightfoot, and that's because he's really fast. And so the tribe of people are getting hungry, and they say, Mr. Lightfoot, you're so good on foot. Why don't you run down this buffalo and get us something to eat? And he says, well, I would love to do that, but I need to set up my teepee here. And they say, well, we'll be happy to set up this teepee for you if you go get us a buffalo. And so an agreement of value, an exchange of value happens right there. That's the same thing as money. So In that free market, Mr. Lightfoot is running down a buffalo and getting them all something to eat, whilst his teepee gets built by them, so everybody wins. And this is the idea. It should be transactions should be win-win. And that allows for the you know community of kids that see that transaction to take place. Some of those kids are going to say, man, I want to aspire to be Mr. Lightfoot so that I can run down the buffalo. And then you end up with a bunch of Mr. Lightfoots that can all run down buffalo. But then the value gets shifted to the tent builder, because everybody can run down the buffalo and get something to eat, but there's not enough tent builders. So this is where money kind of enters in to why we have money, because it allows the individual and their if you would say God-given talents, or whatever gifts they're good at, whatever means they have a natural knack for, can be used and expressed and valued. And we talked about that and talked about how that would work, and then we said, well, eventually is money going to re-enter the equation, because it's not all just buffalo and teepees. And that's where we get into that natural commodity that will preserve your value, that's easily exchangeable, and yet values your talents, and gets spread out evenly amongst the people. And that's why for 3,000 plus years, until this last 100 years or so, gold and silver, maybe some copper, have been money just because of their own attributes. They don't go bad like grain goes bad. There's too many seashells down on the seashore. It's the oh, nice. But so point being there, that gold and silver is a commodity that is most liquid. It doesn't go bad, it doesn't corrode, it lasts and preserves value the longest, is most easily broken down and exchangeable. Therefore, just through natural means, it has became money. That's why it was money for 3,000 years. When we went off our gold standard and allowed our government to print money, then that's where corruption has gets a foot in the door. That allows for uh, corruption to excel, to expand, to grow. Whereas the free market, seeing that with a distributed resource that no one has control over, the free market keeps that type of thing in check, because the people don't want it, therefore they don't buy it, they don't put their value towards it. But when we're all using this exchange mechanism that only someone has, one entity has the access to this magic money hat, well, now they can get as corrupt and as big and as powerful as they want, and that is what is happening. And so this is a huge experiment that has taken place on society that I don't even think we fully understand. I think there's a few of us in the monetary, so you got your Peter Schiffs, preaches all day long every day about this, and he's got a pretty good grasp on it, I think. But I do every once in a while hear this banter back and forth about capitalism and free market, and whether it's good or not, but it seems to be entered into the existing context of what we live in, as if that's a free market, or as if that's a capitalistic society. But it is definitely not since we've been taken off the gold standard. It's a one group of people has access to the magic money hat, and the rest of us have to somehow deal with this problematic point of value gain, that they have unlimited value, whereas we have to work hard, put our energy, our units of energy into getting this exchangeable thing that we use as money. And now that it's left reality, we're experiencing the dictates of an oppression that we've not understood before. So this to me is the big stickler, and it's kind of what I wanted to come out here and say today is what my title says. You can't have a free market with a money printer involved, and that goes for capitalism as well. There's no need of arguing about whether capitalism or a free market is good if there's a money printer involved in that. So that's something that I want to just, kind of hash out and make clear, is that, I think these discussions are good to have, and maybe money is a problem, but it is for sure a problem if one group of people has access to the magic money hat. That's just ridiculous, which is what's happened when the president closed the gold window. Originally, the first thing he said following I'm closing the gold window is, but don't worry, we'll be a forward-looking trading partner, as in we're not going to skew the books or print money without giving value in return. But since that time, we've proven that that is not the case, and we're now printing pretty much nonstop, which causes inflation to go crazy, and thus we are living in this reality right now. So
Yeah, it's every time we build an edge against this new inflation, they're every time they print more, it's like they're wiping the sweat off our brow and telling us to just work harder. You know, like you haven't even broke a sweat yet; they just wiped away our sweat. And and we build an edge against this. We adapt as a market, we adapt as workers, we adapt. And we try to make the most out of the situation. And every time we start getting that edge, in comes the new wave of dollars in the pool, making the dollars we just earned less valuable, therefore dwindling away our value. It's like, imagine if you're, we work our butts off. So there's a lot of people out there in the market that work their butts off for a 50-cent raise an hour. 50 cents. You know, not ev- not everybody's in a six-figure position, guys, in case you didn't know. you know,
yeah,
not everybody's in a six-figure world. Okay. And there's people working their butts off for 50 more cents. But now but it doesn't matter if your manager's giving you a raise, if the whole corporation is demoting you on the way and deducting your pay. If they're deducting it a penny a day, deducting your pay a penny a day, and they're only giving you 25 cents a month, they're gaining a 5-cent edge on you. You
yeah,
see?
yep,
But they ain't going to stop that penny a day, and that 5 cents is going to add up over and over, and then they swamp it again, and now it's a 10-cent edge. Now it's a 15-cent edge on you. And next thing you know, you're out of a job.
yes,
You're working for free.
yes, and when you're in these fiat systems, when they have access to that money printer, it becomes a runaway system. And like, oh, I can't think of his name right now, but he was pointing out that yes, inflation comes from the money printer for a period of time, and that's all that causes the inflation, is the amount of extra fiat that's entering the system. But at some point in that, when people start realizing that, oh, it's the magic money hat that's causing this inflation, then all it is awareness of people. And the more it sinks in, the more aware people become of the problem, the less they want to work for that false sense of value, because it's nothing but digits that they tap into a screen whenever they want it, or print up as much fiat as they want. And then they realize, oh, we're working for an imaginary value. And you once you see all the corruption in our society, and you realize that we're the thing that's giving them the ability to be corrupt is that money printer, and that makes you want to disengage from that system, and that causes the inflation to even go up faster than it was before.
Well, it's diluting the profitability of a small business for starters. Like a larger business can head, like we look at that, like platinum 1694. Thanks, Jake, by the way. But you look at platinum, a large platinum mines. Platinum's really volatile to this measure, is that these guys will run in the red for years and years and years, because at least they're getting in some kind of a stockpile, and they can kind of hedge that bet, because when it comes back up, that profitability average can return
Right.
to them, right? But the small guy doesn't have that same kind of operating leverage.
Yep.
Like he doesn't get a big enough return to hedge the last 10 years of this madness.
Right. That's why we stack metals, because we have a rebound from that inflation. But
Right.
if you're in a business that is not metals, that rebound may not be there for you, and you're just in a hole and getting further every day in a hole.
Right. Because remember, like big daddy boss government is deducting your pay every day. Every day he's deducting your pay.
Yep.
And you're just struggling to get a raise.
And also the prices of the things that you have to purchase, like rent and groceries, goes up
Your
while you lose.
profitability window has been diminished or straight undermined. And so, as like any working person, you're your own business. Whether you contract as a 1099 or a whatever tax bracket you choose to assign yourself to, and contract yourself to, you're still, at the end of the day, back to that base root. Lightfoot, Mr. Lightfoot is contracting to Mr. Tent Builder.
Yep.
And these are businesses in operation.
Which is value for value, mind you. And that's where the problem of that printer comes into place, because it's no longer value for value, it's value for nothingness. And so you're always losing your value, where they can apply the nothingness never ending. And so your value gets less and less and less.
Yeah, they just heard it. They just started breeding buffalo and charging you like they were running it down.
So that's why a commodity that is naturally occurring and yet scarce ends up being the best money. And that's why the free market has chose gold and silver, because no one has a magic silver printer or a magic gold printer, and it takes a lot of effort or units of fuel, units of your labor to gain access to that. And so it's an open market, value for value, runs the society as the masses of people would have it. And that's why a free market does so well, and gets rid of large portions of corruption. So I think, me personally, from what I've looked into it, I think a free market is by far a thing to strive for, something that we should want to base our society on.
Well, it really puts the market at, it puts society back into like a put your money where your mouth is kind of mentality.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
oh, you really believe that? Put your money where your mouth is, you know, and and we'll see who's right, you know.
Exactly. And
But
that
they don't have to see who the government doesn't have to see if it was right or wrong, because
no.
if it was wrong, it just goes, "Brrr, I'm right again." You know what I mean? Brrr, I got the edge.
Right. Yeah,
Brrr, we're out of business. You
that's
know?
why it should never be forced like, oh no, gold is the new standard and it has to be gold. No, you can never do that. You have to let the free market decide. And so in my title I put crypto as an option,
Jake
even
just put
though
units of energy, which is exactly what I was talking about earlier, man. Sorry,
exactly
go ahead.
right. So but it has to be the free market that is able to decide this. And so that's why I actually stack silver. I think silver has more room to go up than gold. So therefore, I stack silver, not gold. But that's the free market putting their money where their mouth is, per se. And that helps to curb corruption because maybe someone thinks copper is going to move the most. Well, they can put their value into copper and they may be right and they may get the edge over me.
And like you pointed out earlier, now they're locked into it. Their value gets locked in. Their
Yeah,
units of energy get locked in now.
right.
You
To what
know
they think is best.
what they think, yeah.
Yes,
and
exactly.
and we never know. We like there's so much suppression, like platinum, copper. These are suppressed metals. They've been industrially suppressed, like through like contract stabilizations, futures, and shortage, shorting, and they've been kind of like, but in the consumption world, in the natural world, like uh natural occurrence in the earth, uh, the actual occurrence of production, mining production, the actual occurrence of consumption, these are the real life factors that really drive these. But every time that money machine goes in, it can diminish all three of these or play like one doesn't exist.
Yes.
It can absolutely wash out a whole facet. And like copper and platinum are highly undervalued right now. I firmly believe that. Silver, highly undervalued. Gold, highly undervalued.
Yep.
Because they're printing enough that they're kind of like creating like this price inaccessibility also. This is also a false occurrence. This price gap, like your
Right.
wage gold standard, this is a false occurrence right now. You know, that's not real. As long as Money Machine goes per, it could be a lot closer. It could be a lot further away. But
Right.
we don't freaking know.
Right. That's manipulation. And that's what we need to get rid of is the manipulation. And again, allowing that free market to find what they value the most. Put their energy into what they value most. Maybe that's oil, maybe that's corn, maybe that's wheat. That's what allows a farmer to utilize his piece of land and make it prosper for him. And so that's why, we need to have an open market. And, you know, we were talking too about country to country, like I seen, um, Neil was saying America will own energy market of the world. Well, that might be the case, but I don't think it should be written out. It shouldn't be decreed. That's in my mind, that's not something we should strive for.
Oh,
Yes, each person and each, you know, family or individual should strive to do the best that they can do with what they have. But I don't believe that just because we're American, we should own the world. Like it's not free market.
well, it also drives another point that we discussed earlier, which would be a good time to bring up, is we asked the question between us. We asked the question, we said, well, all right, so we're doing this without money now, right? So what we say gold and silver is the standard and has been the standard, but this has always been in relation to fiats and stuff. But we don't know what the free market would per se naturally produce. Would it naturally
Right.
incline it towards metals?
Or
Yes, most
crypto.
likely. metals, fuels, or would it be water? Could it be shoelaces that turn to be the most valued? Probably not shoelaces. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Exactly. No,
But,
it
but which metal would win? Would gold even be the standard anymore? Or would it be platinum, rhodium, osmium? You see what I'm saying? Of
right.
the metals.
Right. Well, that's again why the free market is such a good idea, because it could allow osmium to rise to the top, but then right under that is platinum or is gold or then is silver. And then so whichever, at least it allows you for your your value to be valued by others in the market, and it naturally gets to that point.
Well, a
Not
natural market isn't a stable market. A healthy
we
market
don't
is
want
not a stable market.
exactly. That's the problem is decree, and especially giving one group access to a money printer. Like that's ridiculousness, and that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, it might be water, Happy says. Right, exactly. It might be water. But if there's an abundance of water, it's not going to be the
Not going to
water
work
anymore.
very well,
Now is
right?
it?
Right. And right, that's why the attributes of gold and silver have been it for thousands of years, because they naturally are the most, like Lynette Zhang constantly says this, that they're the most natural, most liquid, most utilized worldwide commodity, thus making them money, the most divisible, the easiest exchange, it's already the underpinning. Not one country owns it all, not one country has it all. It's just naturally the best thing, letting the free market determine that. And that's, to me, where we need to get back to.
Yeah. And so again, back to that, like, I want to reiterate this question that we asked. Can we do this without money? Yes. Will it lead back to money? Yes.
Yeah.
But in a free market, if we turn the reins loose tomorrow, you know, and said, all right, full return to to foundational constitutional republic free market,
Yep.
back to the real free market, like
Yep.
unregulated, what would occur out of it naturally? Well, you would look at things that are of natural occurrence, and you would want to look for limited natural occurrence. You would want to look for a stable product, one that's not going to rot on the shelf or run away to the neighbor's house, like a cow. Cows are terrible. If you've ever been around cows, you know that there's no fence that a cow don't love to plow through. So I'm just saying, like, there's a stability of values here. Your
Yeah.
animals could die over the next day.
Yeah.
That's not stable. Your gold, your silver doesn't.
Right.
Now, back to the question that I challenged further: what metal would come up on top? You know, in
It would
in
be a fluctuating thing.
it would be, and
Yep.
that would be the sign of a good, healthy market.
Exactly.
You
Yes.
know,
Yep.
you
And
would need diversification again. You would need self sustainability first. You would have to be self sustainable in order to sustain all these variety of fluctuations going on around you, for starters.
well, that's what makes your talent good. If you're a farmer and you're good at farmer, you're going to prosper at farming, and everyone's going to want your product because it's good food that you need to survive. And then, someone builds the machine to best harvest that. Well, they're going to do good at, earning value because they're producing the machine that the farmer needs to gain access to his crop. So that naturally over time hashes itself out. And I
But
hear
that's because they have dominion over the money, that they can suppress these innovations. They
right,
can suppress the technologies. They
right.
can suppress the self sustainability. The mom and pop stores. They can suppress entire markets. Entire industries, all because they can go. Brrr. But once you turn that off, and it's wild currency, wild fiat. Well, wild fiat is going to be in the hands of those that can handle it best.
Right. And that's the key. The whole key to all of this is shutting off the money printer. A lot of people will say, well, we're too far gone into corruption. Well, in a sense, I agree. You got people who are incredibly rich by a non rightful means. They earn their value through a corrupt system. In fact, they got rich off of ruining society. But that aside, you got to start somewhere. And the first place to start is shutting the dang money printer off.
Yeah.
Once you shut that money printer off, these things automatically start to correct themselves. And so, will everything be fixed just by shutting the printer off? Well, not overnight, but you're dang sure getting yourself on the right track at that point. You're at least working towards the right answer when you're
Well,
doing
we're going to be thinking about what we spend that cash on, aren't we? Like, dude, we can't just print this up tomorrow. Like, we got what we got.
Exactly. And then it starts evenly trading amongst the people. And that's what I'm saying. Even at this point, we will do so much better just by stopping the printer right now. Right now. Just stop the printer. That will start fixing
Now the debts
so
are going to
many
come
problems.
rolling in. The debts will come rolling in, and we
There,
really.
yes, there's gonna be pain, but you're gonna start working towards the proper direction
Yeah.
on
Now,
doing
some of
it.
these guys, I say, we just say screw it, give them the finger, and say let's go to war. But not seriously, but kinda. Like at some point, you'll have to draw a line. Like, look, you're either going to work with me or not. You know.
Well, again, the natural free market does this on its own.
Hmm.
Another country is going to want to trade us for our corn if they don't have any corn, but they need to give us something that we value, not useless paper notes that they can print at endless bounds. Maybe they have something we want. Maybe it's pineapple. Maybe it's rubber. Maybe it's granite.
Well,
Whatever it
there's a
is,
lot of nations already working in this direction in cooperation.
exactly, because they know that, look, we went on to this corrupt system of getting rid of the gold standard and going on to our fiat printer prints the value for
Look,
all countries. And that's
Jake just
completely
hit right here. Central banks are printing fiat to buy gold around the world. Think
yes,
about that, y'all.
exactly.
We're
Exactly.
getting ousted by those that are able to print it because we don't get to print it for ourselves and then run out and buy all the gold.
Right.
We don't get to do that.
Exactly. And we need, the sooner that we shut it off, yes, it might be painful for a little while, but it will be well worth it. It's going to be way worse if we allow it to keep happening. In the idea that we're doing better by allowing the printer to keep printing with other nations is a false. Like you say, we already got other nations working the other direction.
Now,
And go ahead.
we can't sustain that. Like as a nation, we can't sustain our current lifestyle as a nation. Like like how we conduct ourselves out in the world. We'll have to change that. We can't do it and maintain this lifestyle. Like, look, if you're living off of like bank loans and high rolling, like when the bank loan stops, if you turn everything back, you know, you pay what you pay or you can't, your lifestyle is going to crash. But that doesn't mean that it's the end of your life. It just means it's the beginning of a new lifestyle.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, but a sustainable one this time because you don't really have a choice when you're at the bottom. If you can't take a loan, like if I can't go to the bank and get a loan, then who's going to bail me out? Nobody. So I either make it or break it, you know. But if I make it, it's going to be a preservation of value. It means that whatever value I capture, I get to keep now. I get to
Yep.
keep the value I capture for once.
Right.
Instead of it
Exactly.
being tossed away and whittled down and watered down into because the price of groceries, like we'll probably see those increase, right? Like we're gonna see the price of groceries shoot through the roof for a minute. Like I hate to say it, that'll be the natural order. But through this, like eventually, yes, this comes back around to higher wages and people having to pay you what you're worth. again.
what you're worth. Not that you just get naturally better wages. It's that if you're putting out good value, you're going to get good value in return. It's that Lightfoot versus teepee maker. It's
Because people
value
are
for
only paying,
value.
yeah, because
It's
people
not
are only paying what it's worth to them now, what their
right.
input is.
It's not go do my bidding, even if it's corrupt, and I'll give you $1 million. And someone goes and does the corrupt bidding because they're getting $1 million. Because that's what's happening right now, and that's why you see corruption just flourishing. So the and not only do they print that $1 million and give it to someone for a corrupt reason so that they can become more powerful and gain more power over the all the people of the world. It robs the value to do so out of granny's existing banking account, and people don't a lot of people don't you know are not understanding that. So it's so bad in so many ways. It just that's literally the biggest problem the world has right now. It's part of the wars that we're over in all these other countries, bombing them for no good reason. It really is a huge big problem that it on all lot like no logical person when thinking this through would say, yeah, one group of people should just have a magic money hat. Like no one would agree to that. This and that's why the president, after closing the gold window, made the statement of, "Don't worry, we'll keep honest books." Well, have they kept honest books? Not even kind of. So this shouldn't be a thing. Uh, it's just got to be ended. And you know, don't pretend that we have a free market in what we have existing, and don't talk about it being capitalism when there's a printer going burr.
No, it's we're on a big monopoly board and we're playing with monopoly money, and the bank gets to make as much monopoly money as the bank wants to make. The bank doesn't run out. The bank never exits the game. you know?
Yep, like Mr. Happy is saying, the system was only designed for the two percenters. Exactly. And those that are in power now like it, and of course they want to keep it, and of course they don't want to lose their monopoly on it. But it is not only crushing the society of America, it's why these other nations are forming BRICS, because they see it's hurting them, it's hurting their nations, it's they see it's even hurting us. And so
Well, the sad percent is that 2%. Well, that 2%'s never going to feel that. They'll never they'll never have to experience that. They could spend 10 billion and go live off that 10 million off in some third world country, right?
right.
And
And and we discussed even earlier a little bit, and I don't want to get too far on the weeds on this, but if you know overnight we were to open up the federal lands
mhm.
and
Oh yeah,
allow,
this is a fun one.
and let's not go too, this gets a little weedy, but the point is, if you were to open up some of this land and let it to be bought out, you're still going to have to let those that have got their corrupt status in life, they're still up top. You're going to have to let them have their value as it is just to get started. But over time, if you just shut the money printer off now, eventually that's going to even out, is kind of the point. And so even if the corrupt are still corrupt, it shuts them from the continual power takeaway that they're continuing to take away. It at least stops it there. And then that allows the value over time to re you know re go what's the word I'm
Redish,
looking for, redistribute,
redistribute.
yes. So
Well, yeah, because like I think you made a good valid point earlier. What about that was that, like, hypothetically they say they did come in and buy up all the land or whatever, right? Well, then that portion of their cash, their fiat, is locked away. Like, meaning of they can't use that portion against you or to build or for whatever purpose they have in mind. That's been designated and put away. It's kind of like in crypto world, you'd call it a token burn of a sort. And you put it in a wallet, lock it away, and poof, but that means there's less currency operating in the system now, therefore bringing a higher value
Yeah.
to your currency, you know?
Yeah.
And
And we talked about, like, I included that in my, again, I want the open market to decide. If everyone decided on crypto, it's fine by me. The problem that I automatically see with crypto is it allows for one person to make a bunch of crypto. And so to me, that's a flawed market, because we've got Bitcoin and we've got Bitcoin Cash and we've got Bitcoin on the stock market and you've got Bitcoin derivative after derivative after. So that's not finite. That's going to continue to explode and continue to give monopolies to certain places. That's why gold and silver always stands out as the natural money. Then that's why it's been for so long. I mean, it's not like, it's just naturally there. It was naturally money. It's not like it was by decree. It's because it just works naturally.
now, that being said, I'm not opposed to tokenization backed by tangible, right? Like a
I kind of
token.
am. I would
Well,
need to
here,
dive
hold on, hear
further
me out
into it,
first.
but
At
okay,
least let me give you the reason why I'm not
sure,
totally against it,
sure.
right? It's because the one hard thing about tangible is the communication of your money. So like I go on to Amazon or eBay, it's not like I can just like shove silver rounds into my phone.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
and these people want to get paid, and it's not like you want to wait 15 days for the to mail it over to them, and then oh, they didn't ever got it. You see what
right.
I'm saying?
Yeah,
And so like, but if you had it, like, now this is where I think the private economy could step in. If you did have a business that had X amount of silver here, X amount of silver here, and agreed to tokenize that transaction for whatever agreed amount you guys said was okay, that there's a benefit to that. But it would have to be backed by the tangible, whatever the tangible is at that time, that you guys choose.
yes. No,
Yeah.
I guess I don't really have a problem with commoditizing gold and silver if we're using that as money. Um, Especially if we exact out amounts and do real audits, and I can see that being a thing. But I don't want to tokenize everything else. Like, everybody wants to tokenize everything. I think that's a huge mistake.
Agreed. Like land and stuff.
Land, water, everything. It's like, no, don't do that, because you're creating a fraudulent system that's going to be used to lure it over the people. So, you know, I wouldn't have a problem commoditizing gold and silver if, like I say, it's settled out on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, and you have free audits whenever you want, or, like, that would be understandable and doable for me. But I do get very nervous about people talking about commoditizing everything and getting everything, you know,
Yeah.
on
But
on a
I
ledger.
mean, the tangibles have a serious problem, and it's any kind of a distance communication.
But
That's the
maybe
hardest
maybe
part.
that's needed. Like, we're so quick to just, oh, we need it immediately. Other things don't work. Not No, it's worked for thousands and thousands of years without having an immediate transfer. This is only fresh. And if it's going to enslave humanity, then I say it's not worth it. I would rather deal with the imperfections of, taking time or having to travel the distance to get it, or whatever be the case.
I don't know. The Romans had their runners, and we had our Pony Express, and then we set freight trains, wagon trains, and freight trains, then highways. And so like I don't want to. All I'm saying is I don't want a blanket statement that with that statement,
Sure.
like, but I do understand your point that we have become a very like impulse driven culture because of that. There is an ethical result of living a certain type of lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like certain ethics, certain moralities, certain life choices will start being cultured, and we could lose sight of things like, holding on to metals for 10, 20 years. Like, who the heck even does that anymore? I don't even do that. I don't hold metals for 10, 20 years. You know, I I cycle them about every three would be right. 2 to 3 years actually. Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
so I don't know, man. There's a lot going on there. That's where it got weedy, huh?
Yeah. But and again, that not that we're expecting to hash out the world's problems here in this live, but I do want to make it clear that we shouldn't be calling a free market while there's a money printer involved. We shouldn't be considering what we have now as capitalism while there's a money printer involved. Those things need to be either understood or eliminated before we have those conversations. And in my opinion, the magic money hat should not even be a possibility because it's too prone to corruption. Like, show me a country where it hasn't ended up back at zero because of greed and corruption, and look at all the pain that's involved through that corruptive process. That's why, biblically speaking, just weights and just balances. That's all we're looking for. If you want to be homeless and live down by the river and opt out of this is fine by me. I totally understand that. And you should have the right to do so. But, you know,
But if two parents are working full time jobs and they're still down by the river
and they're not exactly, that's
and
where,
they don't want that,
exactly. That's
that's a
where we've
problem.
got to, and that's where we're at today. Like, I see that in Denver, and that makes me know we're starting to really get to this desperate area, to the reason why I started my channel is because
Well,
I seen this coming, and I think we're readily on it right now. We're
it's
in
because the
the
work
process.
has been devalued by the money printing. It's
Yeah.
devalued. Every time they put another dollar in, it takes, a dollar out of our paycheck. Literally.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
or whatever percentage of that dollar.
Right. It takes a penny out of everybody's dollar or whatever it is. It's a
Yeah,
percentage constantly devaluing us and lifting them up. It goes both ways
yeah.
bad.
So those nearest the source reap the greatest reward, and those furthest from the source suffer the greatest detriment. And as end consumers and end producers, and just the blue and white collar world over here, you know, what are we supposed to do? We don't have any freaking control over this. You know, we don't. And so when they start washing that all away and just print more and print more and print more and devalue us, yeah, you end up with, families of four living in a van.
Yep. Yep.
Why? Because, their $10 has been diminished down to one.
Yeah. There, and like you were talking about, the energy level being put in has lost its value, which is supposed to be the value to begin with. It's Mr. Lightfoot that ran down the buffalo. He has just as much value when he gets home from his tent being made as the person that gets to eat, because they all have tents and now they all have a meal. That's equal value for equal. That's worthy money right there. That's reality right there. That's good value input for good value input.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the key that has been taken away from us. And so our values, our labors, our knack that we're good at, the value has been stripped away from us because of this. And it's a big deal, and I don't think people are readily noticing, or can't, a lot of people can't put their finger on where this is all going wrong. And yeah, there's probably a lot of nuance to this as well, but I guarantee the best first move to be made is to shut that printer off. That will start reversing many, many things. And to the people that say, oh, we're too far gone now, I just totally disagree. Like, it will start reversing itself right away. That's why we continually have to borrow more money. Like, why do we have this debt? Why does the government shut down? Well, it's because if we don't print more money, we can't keep bombing these other countries.
Well,
And
yeah,
so,
and the debt too, like, we that the debt contract is a stabilized contract where it's like, just like your mortgage, it's the same freaking number every month. So if we just print more, we can pay that number, but as long as we're paying that number, we're printing more just to keep paying this number, right? We're diminishing our value and then we're making it more difficult to create those numbers in the first place, to actually justify them, but that's part of why they do this, to pay that debt, to pay that stable number. But we don't actually have enough dollars to pay that stable number. That's the problem. They're trying to print it up to enough, trying to like ride it out where hopefully they could print enough numbers finally to pay that stable, enough of those stable numbers.
right. So I just watched a movie. In fact, I wouldn't mind. Maybe we'll come back on we can watch the movie and chime in on it as it goes. But uh, David Morgan just produced a video, Silver Sunrise, I don't know, Silver Sunrise something. And the very first few minutes of it, I have a disagreement with what was being said there. I really like David Morgan. I like the video. I think there's lots of great things about it. But one thing I disagreed with right off the top, the first few minutes, is some girl is on there and she's saying, we know that there's no such thing as scarcity and that we have this infinite universe, and there's, well, hold on right there. I disagree with that statement out the gate. There is scarcity. Now there's enough abundance for all the people. There's not like there's an actual shortage of food. Without interference, we would have plenty of food to feed the people. It's us that in the corruption that's causing the faultiness. But there is a finite amount of things. Let's since we both understand osmium, that's a good place to start. That is the most finite element known to man, and it's the densest. And I don't need to get into all the different things about it, but one thing is there's not a lot of it, and it's so, and there's only one Mount Rushmore, right? Or there's only one um, Devil's Tower, or there's only one. Think of the national park. There's only one Grand Tetons Mountains. Okay, and so there is finiteness in the world, and that's why gold and silver for thousands of years have been that natural element that everybody agrees to, because there's enough of it to go around, but yet no one has the magic printer to just print it out of thin air. It takes a lot of energy to get any more of it. And so the growth even goes with the growth of the population. This has been proved out and charted as well.
Yeah, it takes literal people to go out there and literally work machines and literally turn these things, build these machines and maintenance these machines and go to work and eat and sleep and pay bills and buy groceries
Get your bacon.
That little coin right there in your hand.
Right. And it takes the monopoly away from the money printer. It's evenly distributed, and there's only so much in it, and for you to gain more value, you have to distribute that out. And therefore, over time, it evens out unless the free market determine what the free market wants. And that's, I think, where we should strive to get back to. But I know for sure there's definitely not one group of people has access to the money printer. That's just sure.
Well, you bring me to thinking about like how I this is just me. I'm not saying everybody should do this. I'm not even saying it's the right way. But when I'm looking at the lens of metals through like the investment perspective, a lot of the times I start at the natural occurrence of the metal. What's the natural crustal abundance? You know what I mean? What are we actually going to be able to get our hands on, right? And then I look at the actual mining production, because just because we got a lot of it, like rare earths, just because we got a lot of it doesn't mean we produce a lot of it. So now you have production abundance.
Right.
you know? And then from production abundance, you have that distribution of it, which is the retail side of things.
Yes.
What is your retail abundance? And
And that's
finally, what is your exit abundance? Your fungibility. Yeah.
right. And
And
that's why you don't make gold only money. You leave it float free market. So if gold gets heavy to one side, you got people that move into silver, you know, and then silver takes off and industry even helps it to overcome gold. Well, now you got copper. Well, and this can you can just keep going, and that float is the key, is the free market. So yeah.
yeah, I think we might need to another time kind of go back. I'd like to reapproach the subject of like and spend more time like discussing because we've kind of breached the subject a bunch, but I'd really like to focus on it one of these days. Is like what makes anything valuable? Like what makes things valuable at all? Like because there's a lot of people like we're very like in our culture that like you look at a lot of this elder generation that's been getting had, with these coin purchases. Yeah, sure, they're buying like real gold, but they're getting ripped with like commemorative sets and stuff like this, right? Like who was it the other day? Um, Tucker, Tucker Carlson. I think he came out and mentioned this the other day too. Was like he's talking about like there's whole waves of people out there that want to understand and kind of do, but they don't really have an education as to why it's valuable. They just know that it is,
Yeah.
right? Which can create a disparaging effect in the market because it like delegitimizes what the real value is. And so you got a whole bunch of people that they got ripped off, and so now they distrust it and they create this false premise that this is a big scam, not understanding why something is valuable. Because if they knew why it was valuable, they'd understand then the differences between their spots and premium.
Correct.
Then they would understand it and be able to make an educated decision with an educated investment strategy. But
Yes.
because they're not understanding why things are valuable and only that they are valuable, they're getting ripped off like on the regular.
And that touches on exactly what my point is about.
Holy smacks. Come on, let's clap for Silver real quick. Woohoo!
Right, no doubt. But that
Wow.
that totally touches on what I was saying
Dude,
about.
and I just liquidated a bunch. Like,
But that ties in with what I'm saying about
oh,
people arguing about free market or capitalism, like Tucker Carlson not understanding. You can't like he's
no,
trying to
he
look at
understood.
our society right now and say, well, is free market good? Because I see all these problems in our market. How is free market? Well, this isn't free market, so you're arguing just a non-case.
Tucker Carlson understood. He was addressing the point on our like from our behalf, from our side, like saying like Tucker turned down like a $20 million deal with like I
Yeah,
think it was AP Max
yeah,
because he was like, "This is immoral, unethical. I'm
right,
not going to sit here and hype this
right.
the way you want me to hype this because like you're attaching all these like additional things. You're not telling people why there's this additional price on this. They don't understand it, which
Did I lose you? You froze up. Come back, Space Miner. All right. Well, we might have lost lost Space Miner there. But I think we covered most of what, the main basis of what we wanted to discuss here. Uh, Main thing being, there's no need of discussing free market if there's a money printer involved. That's not a free market. There's no need to argue about whether a free market is good if there's a money printer involved, because it's not a free market. We need to understand that firstly. And the same with capitalism. Don't try to argue with someone about, is capitalism good if there's a money printer involved, because capitalism is not capitalism if there's a money printer involved. That's corrupt capitalism. That's crony capitalism. And so, those might be conversations to be had, but they can't be had thinking that it can be done with a money printer involved. That's the basis of what I wanted to say with this live stream. So if Space Miner doesn't pop back in here shortly, we might just wrap it up. But yeah, boy, silver is on a tear, eh? That is no joke. 20 years ago, I wish more people understood the planning of real money. Now I am scared. Not more people know, or more people know. Yeah, like that. That was the issue. Well, we had so much more. We had so much more trust back then, and I don't think it was necessarily proper trust at that time. Maybe a little prior to that, but at the time of the gold window closing, there was already, the reason it closed was from corruption being afoot, right? So, and it's just got way out of hand since then. So it's not like we just, because like they said, oh, this is just temporary. Well, if it would have been temporary for a month or two, or that might have been more understandable. But 50 years later, that's not temporary. This is a problem, and we need to put a stop to it. So, all right. Not that we have all the answers, just wanted to point out, this is one thing that we can nail down to the floor. Let's get some of those basics covered. And really the big problem, even worldwide, not just in the US, is our money printer. It's causing problems not just for our local society, but even worldwide. And yeah. So, all right, everybody. Well, I'm going to wrap this one up. I do not see him popping back in, and I pretty much got my point across. So thank you all for hopping in. It was good seeing y'all. Oh, hey, welcome in, Wrong Channel 111. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Everyone else that joined, greatly appreciate you jumping on. And oh, here he is. I think I'll wrap it up here soon, but we'll let him say goodbye anyway. I'm just getting to wrap it up, but yeah, I think we covered our points, and maybe we'll get out of here. But is there any last words you'd like to throw out there?
I'd like to say hi, chat. Sorry, we've been in it. Thanks everybody for stopping by. Appreciate that for sure.
Yep.
I was trying to say hi, I'm gonna point like do this, but no, on that note, I think we did pretty well cover what the basics of this are like. Yeah. And I think we need to follow this up too.
Yes.
Like, and kind of go through some of the logistics of how to respond to this.
Yeah.
They're not changing it. They're not shutting down the money machine. So we have to be prepared with a response of our own. And I think that's where I would like to pick up on this conversation. How do we respond?
Yeah, and another thing that we can get a little bit further into that I would like to explore a little bit is, can we do this without money? And there is a spiritual aspect to money. And that was one of the things that they talked about in that Silver Sunrise movie that David Morgan did, is there is a spiritual aspect to our money, and it's because it's our time, it's our effort, it's our labor, it's our talents, it's our energy, why we're living life. And so, you know, like we said, it can be done without money. The Indians did it without money. It's just that money naturally enters in as a good means of exchange. Um, but it just needs to be that honest value that someone can't take advantage of, which has been throughout societies many a time. So we need to sit down and kind of nail it down and understand where we're getting off. You can't corrupt the, and now we have many means by which to tell whether our silver and gold is pure or not, whereas before it was a little bit tougher. So like, that's not really an issue anymore. But yeah, so like, maybe the spiritual aspect of it, is definitely a part of it. Um, but we should not be letting ourselves be ruled over in this way that we're being ruled over. And look at the amount of corruption and evil that they're bringing in through their overlordness, from their standpoint of ruling over us. It's ridiculous, totally unjust, totally unrighteous, totally unmoral. Um, so that it needs to be ended. So
Yeah, crypto's taking a dive and metal's going through the roof. What a coincidence.
right, yeah, we'll see. Some of this is understandable, and I have been bad with money all my life, but yet I was able to see the bigger picture of the deception that's taken hand, because that's what it is deception. This is a grand deception, and it's given a few in power the ability to gain more power, and we got to turn that around. So
Yeah.
all right. Well, I think we're talking over ourselves now, so I think we'll end this one for now, but hopefully we'll be back with more on these topics. If anyone has something that input that they would like to input on this subject, comment down below, reach out through an email. I'd love to get you on, hear your side of it, and yeah.
I've been advocating for a large panel, but
Right. Yep. Yep.
that could be a tough one to manage. So, but
Yeah.
I would love to have a big discussion about this sometime. Like really just shoot all over the board for hours at a time.
Yeah. Well, the problem with large boards is it's easy to get caught up in the weeds and the minutia, and like, you can really get nowhere fast when you get down into the minutia. And I don't think that I have all the answers for the minutia, but I do have a big overall overarching answer, and that's shut the money printer off. That is really, really the key that we need.
There's one of them.
Yeah, that's the, like, we can discuss what B, C, and D steps should be, but step A should be shutting that money printer off. So that's what we got here. For space line on a format. Yeah, we'll have to do a 4 hour marathon. Get some other opinions up here with us. That'd be fun. So
You think I can't argue, debate, reason, and fight for 4 hours straight? Yeah, another thing.
I have no doubts of it. So.
Watch me go. Like 4 hours. I'm just getting warmed up, bud.
Right.
I'm a trucker. That's how I start my shift. So.
All right, cool. Appreciate you coming up here and talking with me, Space Miner. Everybody out in the chat, it's great having you here, and we will be back with another one soon.
We appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Silver, go.
Yeah, guys, we did it. It'll never see 40, never see 30.
Yeah, right. All right, guys. Catch you on the next one. Thanks all.